Yulong never imagined that the happiest day of his life could also become the scariest. The journey to fatherhood had been filled with excitement, nervous anticipation, and countless tender moments with Yang Meimei, the woman he loved more than life itself. For months, they had prepared together, shopping for baby clothes, painting the nursery in soft pastel shades, and talking late into the night about what kind of parents they hoped to become. He dreamed of holding their child in his arms, of seeing Meimei cradle the baby with her gentle smile, and of building a future where their little family would always come first. But nothing could prepare him for the terrifying hours that unfolded in the hospital, hours that left him broken, vulnerable, and openly confessing to the world, "I thought I was going to lose her." The morning began quietly. Meimei had felt the first signs of labor before sunrise, clutching Yulong's hand tightly and whispering, "It's time." He rushed her to the hospital, his heart pounding but his lips trying to stay calm, telling her over and over, "It's going to be fine, I'm right here." In truth, his own body trembled with nerves. This was the moment they had been waiting for, but it was also the moment where everything could change. As contractions grew stronger, Yulong stayed by her side, wiping sweat from her forehead, whispering words of encouragement, kissing her hand as if his touch could somehow ease the pain. "You're so strong, Meimei," he murmured. "You can do this." She gave him a faint smile, even through the agony, and whispered back, "Don't let go of me." For the first few hours, things seemed manageable, the kind of struggle he had braced himself for. But then, complications arose. The monitors beeped more urgently, doctors and nurses rushed in and out, their faces growing serious. Yulong's chest tightened as he watched the situation spiral beyond his control. A doctor finally turned to him, telling him they needed to act quickly, that he had to step outside. His heart stopped. He didn't want to leave her, not even for a second, but the medical staff insisted. "We need space," they told him firmly. With trembling legs, he backed away, his eyes never leaving Meimei's face as she mouthed the words, "I'll be okay." Those were the last words he heard before the doors shut, leaving him alone in the hallway with his worst fears. That hallway became the longest prison of his life. Every second felt like an eternity, every minute like a year. He paced restlessly, his fists clenched, whispering silent prayers to anyone who would listen. He had always been the man in control, on set, on stage, even in the face of scandal or public pressure, but here he was powerless. For the first time, Yulong admitted to himself that all the fame, all the success, all the applause from millions of fans meant nothing if Meimei wasn't by his side. His thoughts raced back to the beginning of their love story, to the simple days when they were just two dreamers finding comfort in each other's company. He remembered the first time he realized he loved her, not because of how she looked on camera, but because of how she treated people off it, the way she greeted the crew by name, the way she laughed at his bad jokes, the way she believed in him when even he doubted himself. Those memories haunted him now, because the thought of never making new ones broke him in ways he had never felt before. 3 endless hours passed. He couldn't sit, couldn't eat, couldn't stop hearing her voice in his head. "Don't let go of me." But what if fate forced him to? What if this was the end of their story? At one point, his knees buckled, and he pressed his forehead against the cold hospital wall, tears spilling freely. He didn't care who saw. The crowd of fans and reporters gathered outside caught glimpses of him through the glass, pacing like a restless soul, and many said later they had never seen him look so fragile. For once, Yulong was not the composed actor or the charismatic star. He was simply a man in love, terrified of losing everything that gave his life meaning. And then it happened. A cry pierced the air from behind those closed doors. A baby's cry, sharp and insistent, echoing like music in the sterile hospital corridor. Yulong froze, his chest tightening as tears welled in his eyes. But even then, his joy was incomplete until he knew about Meimei. When the doctors emerged with a tiny swaddled bundle, his eyes darted past the child to the gurney behind them. And there she was, Meimei, pale but breathing, her lips curling into a faint but beautiful smile as her eyes met his. Relief hit him like a tidal wave. His legs carried him forward before he realized, and he grabbed her hand, kissing it again and again as tears rolled down his face. "You scared me," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I thought I was going to lose you." She squeezed his hand weakly, whispering back, "You'll never lose me." When he finally held his daughter, his heart nearly burst. The baby's tiny fingers curled around his own, and he whispered softly, "You don't even know how strong your mother is. She's my hero." Nurses said he held the child with such tenderness, as if she was both the most fragile and the most precious treasure in the world. And perhaps she was, because in that moment Yulong realized he had everything he had ever wanted: a family, a love that had survived the storm, and a reason to never take another moment for granted. Later that day, as fans and reporters gathered outside the hospital, Yulong stepped forward to address them. His eyes were swollen from crying, his voice still thick with emotion, but he didn't try to hide it. He spoke not as a star, not as an actor, but as a man who had come face to face with the possibility of devastating loss. "You all know me as Yulong," he began, pausing to steady his voice, "but today I was just a husband, a father, and a man who almost lost the love of his life. Watching her fight in there, I thought I was going to lose her. And in that moment, I realized nothing else matters. Not fame, not success, nothing. If she's not with me, none of it means anything." His words spread across the internet within minutes, crashing platforms as fans shared them, crying over the raw honesty of his confession. Hashtags like #Yulong's confession, #StayStrongMeimei, and #TrueLoveExists trended for days. People called it one of the most touching celebrity moments of the year, a reminder that even stars are human and that love, at its purest, is about vulnerability. Behind the scenes, Meimei's strength was just as remarkable. Nurses later revealed that even during the hardest moments of labor, when her body was exhausted and the pain overwhelming, she whispered to herself, "I need to see his face again." She fought with everything she had, not just for her baby, but for the man waiting outside the door, the man she loved with her entire soul. That strength carried her through, and when she finally laid eyes on him again, the relief in her smile was as powerful as his tears. In the days that followed, Yulong was seen rarely leaving Meimei's side. He spoon-fed her meals, brushed stray hairs from her forehead, and cradled their newborn daughter in the quiet hours of the night so Meimei could rest. Fans who caught glimpses of these moments described them as something out of a love story written for the screen. But this wasn't fiction, it was real. Their love had been tested in fire, and instead of breaking, it had emerged stronger, unshakable. When asked in a follow-up interview what kept their relationship so strong, Yulong answered simply, "There's no secret. It's just love. The kind where you'd rather go through the hardest storm together than walk in sunshine alone. The kind where even when you're afraid, you don't let go. That's us. That's Meimei and me." His sincerity touched millions, reinforcing the belief that true love does exist and that it thrives not in perfection, but in endurance. The confession was more than just a headline. It became a symbol of what love looks like when stripped of glamour, when it faces fear head-on and refuses to give in. People around the world admitted that Yulong's words gave them hope, that it reminded them to cherish the people they love, to never take a single moment for granted. Even fellow celebrities praised him for his honesty, saying his confession was one of the bravest things they had ever witnessed from a public figure. Perhaps the most moving response came from Meimei herself. When asked later about Yulong's tearful confession, she smiled gently and whispered, "He thought he was going to lose me, but I was never leaving him. Not now, not ever." Those simple words captured everything about their story: the devotion, the resilience, and the bond that nothing, not even the fear of death, could break. Now, as Yulong and Yang Meimei step into their new chapter as parents, their love story carries even greater weight. No longer just lovers, they are partners in raising a child, building a family, and navigating the challenges of parenthood together. Every cry from their newborn, every laugh they share in the quiet of their home, is a reminder of what they almost lost and what they now treasure more fiercely than ever. For Yulong, Every sunrise that brings another day with Meimei by his side feels like a miracle, one he vows never to take lightly. "I'll spend my life making sure she knows how much I love her," he promised. And if his confession taught the world anything, it is that he truly means it. Yulong's heartfelt words, "I thought I was going to lose her," will forever be remembered as more than a statement. They will be remembered as a testament to the depth of his love for Yang Meimei, a love that stood on the edge of despair and came back stronger, brighter, and unbreakable. In the days following the confession, the atmosphere around Yulong and Yang Meimei shifted from fear to celebration. The couple's story had already captivated millions, but the way they emerged from the storm only deepened the fascination. For Yulong, every waking moment became about gratitude. Gratitude for Meimei's survival, gratitude for the tiny miracle that now completed their lives, and gratitude for the support pouring in from fans around the world. When he held his daughter again in the quiet of the hospital room, he whispered promises only a father could make. "I will protect you. I will love you. And I will make sure you know how much your mother means to me." Meimei, though still weak from the ordeal, smiled at him through tears. She had never seen him look so raw, so stripped of his usual confidence. This was Yulong, not the actor, not the public figure, but the man she fell in love with, the man who would fight heaven and earth just to keep her by his side. Their love story began to spread far beyond the borders of their country. International outlets picked up the story, dubbing it the confession that broke the internet. Clips of Yulong's tearful words outside the hospital were translated into multiple languages, and comments flooded in from viewers who admitted they had cried watching it. "This is what love looks like," one fan from the Philippines wrote. "It's not about flowers or grand gestures. It's about staying when things get hard." Another from the United States added, "He showed the kind of vulnerability men rarely allow themselves to show. That's strength, not weakness." What made Yulong and Meimei's story so relatable was that it reminded people that love is not just about the glossy moments. It's about the fear, the pain, the possibility of loss, and the decision to keep holding on anyway. Fans began calling them a real-life K-drama couple, saying their story was more powerful than any scripted romance because it was rooted in truth. As Meimei recovered, Yulong was often spotted carrying their daughter in the crook of his arm, rocking her gently while humming lullabies. These small emotion only deepened fans' admiration. Many said they had never seen a celebrity so openly vulnerable, so willing to share not just the highs but also the lows of his journey. For Yulong, the decision to speak out was never about publicity. It was about honesty. "I wanted people to know that love isn't perfect," he explained in a later interview. "It's messy. Sometimes it hurts. But when you find the right person, it's worth everything." The impact of his words began to ripple beyond fandoms. Relationship experts praised him for modeling emotional transparency. Others called his confession a cultural moment that would inspire men to express their feelings more openly. For Meimei, the response was overwhelming. She admitted that reading the messages from fans gave her strength during recovery. "Knowing that our story touched so many hearts makes me feel like what we went through had a purpose," she said softly. "If even one couple decides to hold on tighter to each other after hearing what we faced, then it was worth it." Yet even amid all the attention, Yulong remained grounded. His focus never wavered from his wife and child. Reporters who tried to catch him outside the hospital described how he politely acknowledged their questions but always turned the conversation back to Meimei. "She's the real hero here," he said more than once. "I just stood outside praying, but she's the one who fought with her life to bring our daughter into the world." At home, their lives took on a new rhythm. Nights were filled with the cries of a newborn, the shuffle of tiny blankets, and whispered laughter between exhausted parents who were learning on the job. Yulong, who once spent nights memorizing scripts, now spent them changing diapers, fight scene. But deep down, she loved watching into fatherhood with the same he poured into everything else in life. What touched fans most was how this experience seemed to deepen Yulong's perspective. In a heartfelt post on social media, he shared a picture of his daughter's tiny hand wrapped around his finger with the caption, "She doesn't know it yet, but she saved me as much as I saved her." The post gained millions of likes within hours. Emotional reactions from fans who said his words captured the essence of family and love. It became clear that Yulong and Yang Meimei were no longer just admired for their talent or beauty. They had become symbols of resilience, devotion, and vulnerability. Their journey resonated with people because it wasn't perfect, it was real. And in its rawness, it reminded everyone that the strongest love is not the one untouched by hardship, but the one that survives it. The confession, "I thought I was going to love her," will forever remain etched in the hearts of fans as one of the most vulnerable and genuine declarations ever made by a public figure. It was not scripted, not polished, not calculated. It was pure. And in that purity, it carried the weight of truth that resonated with millions. For those who have followed their story from the beginning, this chapter feels like the turning point in a romance drama, the moment when love is tested, when the audience holds its breath, and when relief floods in because love prevails. But unlike the dramas we watch on screen, this one is unfolding in real time. It is still being written, one heartbeat, one sleepless night, one shared smile at a time. And that's where we invite you, our audience, to stay with us. Because love stories like this deserve to be felt, remembered, and celebrated. If you want to keep experiencing these powerful tales of love, sacrifice, and resilience, stories that feel like K-dramas but live in the hearts of real people, then make sure to follow and subscribe to K-Drama Spark. Our channel is where love stories breathe, where confessions echo, and every twist of fate feels like the next episode of your favorite drama. Don't just read about love, live it with us, cry with us, celebrate with us. Yulong and Yang Meimei's journey is just one of many, and trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. Click subscribe and join the family at K-Drama Spark, because the greatest dramas aren't only on screen. They're in the lives we share, the emotions we feel, and the stories that remind us love is always worth fighting for.